I want to get to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in just a moment, but first, McCarthy, House Speaker McCarthy saying that members of Congress have a code of conduct. We aren't going to do childish games, tearing up a speech ahead of President Biden's State of the Union. He was referencing Nancy Pelosi's behavior at former President Trump's State of the Union in 2020. But there was one member of Congress who carried in with her a white balloon. Very interesting.
Yeah, and you even saw Kevin McCarthy almost like the gym teacher looking over a couple of times at his caucus. One time in particular when the president was talking about fentanyl and somebody said, it's your fault, referring to the tens of thousands of deaths from overdoses on fentanyl from the Republican side. You could see Kevin McCarthy look over with an extraordinarily annoyed look on his face as the speech was probably 2/3 of the way through, and it endured some of the raucous back and forth that we saw from Republicans in Allison's speech. So Kevin McCarthy probably is a little annoyed this morning. But it shows that the Republican caucus is one that is perhaps uncontrollable by Kevin McCarthy or by anybody. It's certainly useful to those members that did it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and others. The word last night that we sort of talked about was that it felt as though we had crossed a Rubicon in the State of the Union, as it went from just a couple of people cheering and jeering. We saw that from both sides over the past few years. To almost like the British Parliament of Prime Minister's questions in that moment about Social Security where President Biden was negotiating in real time with Republicans. It just felt a lot different in that the reverence of the night, whether you agree or disagree with President Biden, the reverence of the night seemed to have been cheapened in a way, which is probably fitting of all of our traditions as we've come to 2022.
Well, and it shouldn't be fitting. It should certainly hold still some of the honor and the sacredness of a president, a sitting president of the most powerful country in the world, addressing the entire nation. But besides the heckling and the jeering, he didn't really touch on that suspected spy balloon from China.
No, and it's interesting. Even Democrats I talked to last night really viewed that as an enormous missed opportunity. A year ago, you and I, Adrienne, were talking after the State of the Union about the 10 minutes that President Biden spent on the war in Ukraine. It was 6 or 7 days after the war in Ukraine started, and he brought down the House, literally, in 10 minutes of talking about America leading the world and being a defender of freedom. And last night, he couldn't say the same thing about protecting America. For the first time in history that we know of, a foreign government, a foreign adversary flew a spy aircraft or airship over our territory, over the continental United States. And we didn't do anything for days and days and days. And it got two lines. The idea of this détente with China seems far more important to President Biden than the idea of unifying the country around this threat. And it's interesting because it's not only Republicans who feel that way, it's a lot of Democrats. Democrats in Congress are very hawkish about China. And the Democrats I talked to last night were really stunned that it got so little acknowledgement in such sort of passing reference by the president.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.